This meeting is being recorded.
What's up, everyone? Hey, I'm Jeremy Smith. I am a youth development professional with over 20 years of experience in the capacity of a youth pastor, 4-H agent, YMCA director, camp counselor, you name it. I've had involvement with youth. And so today we're going to be talking about youth protection and how we can protect ourselves and also watch out for those who are targeting our young people. And so right now, I want to first say thank you, Stephanie Collins, for allowing me to have this opportunity to share with you guys. I'm super excited about youth and ag production because it is a much needed avenue for our young people. And so without further ado, I'm going to kind of jump in and kind of share about it. I am also going to share a quick video. And so real quickly, so one of the things that we need to know in regards to some myths about people who are child molesters, for the simple reason, most of us thinking stranger danger, or don't talk to stranger. Though child abduction is something that we need to be prepared for, my understanding is only like 5 to 10% of the case. The 90% of the time of the people we need to worry about are the folks who have built relationship and trust with young folks and what they call the gatekeepers, the family, the parents, the mom and dad. So because those people, because they build this trust, they have private access to a child. And so we got to be very cognitive of our environment, our surrounding, and who's connecting with our kids, because they do it in such a way that they break down I call them alerts in our minds of the tingles that we're supposed to have, because they have built trust. They seem helpful and things of that nature. So we got to just break down a myth that many of the people who are in jail for child molestation or sexual misconduct with young people is because they built trust with them. And 9 out of 10 times, the kid know and have a close relationship with that person. So they use a process called a grooming process. And so I'm going to share a quick video with you in relation to that. And I'm doing a super crash course because so I can spend an hour and a half on this. And just because this is just a very extensive topic in which we're not going to catch the person in the act. More than how we're going to be able to protect our young people is to identify and understand the signs that we need to know. And so those are some of the things I'm going to share with you in this video. So let's start in real quick. I'm going to play about.
So what are the behaviors we need to identify? It's the grooming.
Well, excuse me. I got to share my screen. Give me a second to get back to it. Share. I'm sharing my screen. You're sharing screen. All right. Forgive the delay.
Grooming process of the preferential offender. Understanding the grooming process is the key to recognizing what we need to see. So that's what we're going to discuss now. Let me make an observation, then walk you through the grooming process in 4 steps. First, the observation. From the standpoint of the abuser, grooming has 2 main efforts: grooming the child and grooming the gatekeepers. Now, who are the gatekeepers? Parents, coaches, teachers, babysitters, youth workers, big brother, anybody through whom the abuser has to go to gain access to a child. Now, it's important to note that the grooming of a child can look different depending on the age, gender, and circumstance of the child or the type of program. But the grooming of the gatekeeper generally looks the same. The abuser wants to convince the gatekeeper that he or she is helpful, trustworthy, and kind. Why helpful, trustworthy, and kind? You see, the abuser wants trusted time alone with a child. They understand how we live and how we do community. But how do we live and do community? You see, when someone's a stranger on the outside, no access to children, barriers stay up. But you see, when someone is on the inside of the community, barriers of protection come down. You see, we often equate helpful, trustworthy, and kind with safe. That's why the abuser wants on the inside. And you see, to get on the inside, They will try to convince the gatekeepers, you and me, that they are helpful, trustworthy, and kind. Now, when we talk about the grooming process, we're going to break it down into 4 steps. Now, as I mentioned, the grooming of a child can look different depending on the age, gender, and circumstance of the child or the type of program. The first step of the grooming process is gaining access. What the preferential offender wants to do is gain access to an environment or program where there are children within the offender's age and gender of preference. Normally, that offender will seek a career or volunteer opportunity in a program where that age and gender of children are present. A career or volunteer opportunity. You see, another way to say that is the abuser needs a name tag. That is what gives a person access to the children within the program. Once the preferential abuser has gained access, they will work hard to gain the trust of the gatekeepers with the purpose of disarming people responsible for protecting the children in that program.
So I'm going to pause right here and kind of get back to the presentation, because he just brings up some good points. Is because we're getting ready to start up this organization. It's a new opportunity for someone, I'm going to be honest, for someone that probably got kicked out of another who exhibit those traits, and they were not reported. They did not go to jail, or they did not have a substantial amount of evidence to approve this person to get involved. And then they're going to see this new opportunity. So we're going to have to set up what I call our defenses in order to minimize time alone with kids, to keep people accountable, and to do check-ins just to make sure and understand the behaviors of a kid if there's behavior change. The number 2 things is after the grooming the child or the gatekeeper, that person who wants that access time with the kid will start selecting a child. And he will select a child that is kind of off in the corner alone, or build a relationship where they got to trust with them. In addition, that person will possibly utilize, let's just say that kids is into like drugs and alcohol and are trying to understand their sexuality, and they have these sexual conversations. I'm here to say, y'all, this happened, and I have seen the teachers and the parents who are, I'm going to call laissez-faire when it comes to moral structure, as in people have inappropriate conversations with teens, and you have to be very cognitive of that, and even look at ourselves as adults. Like, are we prone to have inappropriate conversation with youth? I remember one time as a bus driver, taking this group of kids to a sporting event, and it was a female coach talking with female teenage students, and this particular coach started talking about the sexual acts in like full details. And I mean, even as a bus driver, I was just like uncomfortable. She was telling them where to go get protection, what to do with birth control, it was a really how to treat the boys, and it was just a really deep, uncomfortable conversation that this teacher was having with youth. And I was like, man, is this inappropriate? But those teens was totally homed in and connected with this person as they're having these conversations, and they was related. And so I shared that kind of uncomfortable conversation or the inappropriate act just because it is a lot easier than what you think for your children to engage in some inappropriate conversation with adults. And so we have to have barriers. So what I really want to dive in right now, and then lastly, once they win that trust and they have access to that kids, then they will introduce nudity, sexual behavior, and special touch. I want to say it again. They're going to introduce nudity, sexual behavior, and special touch. Now, from my experience, I want to share something that's very profound and it's very true. And as we go through this training from Warner, and it's a fabulous training and we all should go through it, it talks about grooming a child, selecting a child, and introducing the child to nudity, sexual presence. With that process can be disguised in a tactic that we as youth professionals utilize in order to obtain buy-in to a program. If you don't show yourself organized, and responsible adult, then that parent and that student is not going to really want to have a whole lot of sticking power into your program. You come there and you're teaching about gardening, but you don't have all your gardening stuff there. That parent's going to go away. So you show that parent that you want buy-in into that program by having everything structured, good communication, as well as showing your qualification that you are the experts in teaching your young person the elements of gardening. That is the same process, similar to grooming. So I'm pointing this out to you is because it's hard to see it, but you got to be attentive. So it's going to the selecting child. We all heard this term, teacher's pet, teacher's pet. That is the same as selecting child. I've been guilty of having my favorite as a teacher and as an educator, because that particular young person is a go-getter, that they're going to be a leader, and that they're hungry and they're aspiring to either get closer to God, inspired to become the next great leader. And so you invest time in that person to make sure they excel in life. You see them to go off to become a state officer, and then you set up your family time and you set up trips and groups to go to the state events so that way they can shine on the stage. Again, that person can be doing that same exact thing. And lastly, instead of being that person that's introducing this young person to be the next greatest leader or the next best ag production grower that the state of Florida had ever seen, that person takes advantage of that relationship and they go and they try to figure out how to introduce nudity and sexual behavior. So I wanted to point out, let's see how it is if we're not attentive to the next stuff that I'm going to talk about, then someone that is preying on our kids can utilize all those steps for good to evil. And so here are some things that I do. And I was just very honest with Stephanie. I was like, as a 41-year-old Black male, single, not in a relationship, I have to set up extensive protections around me. Not only, and so that protections that I'm about to share with you, it is important because you don't ever want to put yourself in a place where a young person can falsely accuse you of something you did not do, because she say stuff don't hold up well in the court. And so you don't ever want to put yourself in a scenario with a child where he say, she said. The second thing is this, it's like you set up these blockers and you are very clear with the communication of how your adults should appropriately have conversation with kids, educate kids, and invest and mentor kids. So you set up these blockers so that way when you see someone violating, that should be a red alert that, hey, I need to watch this person a lot more closely. I need to have conversation with that young person. And then two, y'all, if a kid comes up to you that they have been have had some type of abuse of some sort, please believe them and report it and do your thorough duty to make sure that that kid is heard, approved, and sent it to the right channels, which will be presented with our program. So let's get to the root of it. So some blockers that I do. Number one, I am never alone with a young person. That is even in today's age of the gender identity crisis. I'm never alone with a kid, even if it's a male or female. Just for the simple reason, I don't want to say an accusation. What if they want a private conversation with me where I can invest in there? So I always go in a place where I am visible with other adults and other people so that they can watch what's going on. But yet can have this private conversation where this kid can feel safe to have it. If it's like super deep and super private, you just gotta say, hey, I need to pull somebody in and listen in on you. And then you go find the right and correct person that would keep what they're about to say in confidence, so that way you can weigh how to utilize the information which that child has shared. So don't be alone with young people. All right, personal touch. I'm gonna get here. This is something, ladies, believe it or not, there is a huge increase. Just here in Statesville, there was a lady that just got arrested for having sexual relations with a young person in the school. It was an older lady, 30s, with the middle school. So this is also on a rise and increase with ladies involved with targeting our young people as well. So when it comes to physical touch, I do high fives, handshakes, and then you're gonna have that one kid that's just an absolutely hugger. You see them coming a million miles per hour, and as much as you want to give them a high five, you're not gonna be avoid that hot hug. Then you learn how to shift your body to the sideways and use side hooks. So if you have to hug, hug sideways. And so those are just some of the things that my youth know that whenever I see them, I'm high-fiving them, doing the little handshake that, what's up, boom, little shoulder touch and things of that nature, just because you don't want to create that synergy that is inappropriate with a kid. Communication. So when it comes to communication, there's two things that I would encourage you. One, utilize remind, just so that way parents can monitor and you don't have these kids messages, and then there's a way where there can be a track of communication that can be easily seen between you and another kid. So I would encourage you to use most education teachers, they using the app Remind. The second thing is set your time limit. There's no real reason why you should be texting or communicating with a kid unless you're out at an event past 10 o'clock. And let them know that, hey, after 10 o'clock, communication is off. I don't text, I don't respond until the next morning around about 7 a.m. or something of that nature. You have to set those boundaries up in that regards. When it comes to being with the opposite sex or even with a group, I call it the 3 deep rule, as in you, a child, and someone else. So in other words, you have 3 people there at all time. If you need to walk a youth, and especially with the elementary kids, if you have 3, it is very difficult for with that third accountability. It minimizes false accusations and misconstrued concepts. So just kind of do things in deep steps of 3s. I'm trying to make sure. Oh, when you are having one-on-one deep conversation, and this is female to male, male to female, as a mentor, be cognitive of the time that you are spending with that child, and be sensitive to the conversation that you're having. If you're finding yourself having 15, 20, 30 minutes conversation with these young people over a certain amount of time, it's probably time for you to bring someone else in that conversation or to kind of cut it off. That's just me. I'm just very sensitive of how long I'm talking with someone of the opposite sex. Very sensitive. And when it reaches a certain point, I'm like, hey, got to go and everything. And if it's something that I need to further deeper tie in, because 9 times 10 when I'm having some longer conversation, that means that there probably needs to be a leadership meeting. And so someone needs to call a leadership meeting where you have a group of kids to share all the information in which you're wanting to talk about. So that's just me saying, be very cognizant of how long you're having private conversation with them. Keep people accountable. So one of the cool things that I like to implement whenever I have a team or staff, if I see a staff member that's kind of having a private conversation, even though they're out and open and everything, and they're just not sensitive of how long they've been talking with this person of the opposite sex or this other kid, and it just kind of feels and look weird, I will go over there and just say, hey, what's up? What y'all talking about? Just to kind of chime in and to see what's going on with the conversation and to kind of break it off, because that is a grooming moment that child molester is trying to win the trust of that kid. So I'm just sharing these things. These are very important things that is like keep one another accountable. If someone's breaking a rule as a supervisor or another leader, call them out and just sort of like, man, what's up with texting this young person after 11 o'clock at night that I'm seeing here on Remind? Or what's up with y'all being off out in the lake swimming? Oh, let me talk about water activity. As an adult, it is my strongest encouragement that you're only there to observe the safety of the kids. As an adult, I would not get involved with wrestling, throwing kids off the docks and things of that nature. That's just how Jeremy rolled. And second of all, I wear t-shirts, shorts, fully covered. So that way, there's just nothing there to kind of draw an attention to guys or girls to me. So ladies, I encourage you that, well, just be very sensitive to water activities and engaging and involving with kids. One of the key things that I would encourage you is that as adult leaders, you will earn the trust of parents, and you may have kids, and those parents will entrust their children with you because they know you've been around you for a while. So one thing I will encourage you is, one, don't ever be in a vehicle alone with a young person. Always be 3 deep or more if you have to do a ride. I would highly recommend it be like you, an adult with youth. That's just my recommendation. Regardless of those scenarios, I would still put a camera in your car if you're going to be driving the youth around for different programs and things. And the reason why, sorry, I just shared my whole screen with you on that time. And the reason why I will share with you that you should actually have a camera is $150 investment that can protect you in so many different ways with being on crazy drivers on the road. Because I usually get the camera that looks outside at traffic, and then the other camera that looks inside, and it records the conversations that's going on there. It keeps you accountable with the conversations you have, and it also is like a listening ear to prevent someone from making false accusations. So y'all, I just wanted to kind of spend that time with you. That's all I have at the moment. And I'm going to be in closing is like, don't be naive of your student crushes, and set huge boundaries for those young folks. There are going to be kids that are going to have crushes on you or another adult leader. If you find yourself with a teacher I won't call them a teacher's pet, because those are the ones that you have to look at the most, is set up strong boundaries between you and that student that you're mentoring and you're mentoring. I'll say it again, set up strong boundaries between the youth that you are the mentor and they are your mentee. I would highly encourage men and women to only be strong mentor and mentee to someone, a youth of the same sex, and learn how to delegate that out. Those are my recommendations, like strong recommendations, for the simple reason it can get really awkward really quick when a youth that has a crush on you is there. So set up boundaries, y'all. It's what protects you. And then watch out for those boundaries for other people and keep them accountable and call them out. And then it's okay to have conversations. Let your youth know at the beginning of the program that it is okay to come to you and talk about some awkward things that might be going on, and that you will believe them and do what it takes to keep them safe. All right, y'all. Enjoy the meeting today. Love, peace, happiness. Jeremy is out.